In the 3rd year of my marriage to Sean Van, he found a new lover. The night I caught them, he calmly advised me, "Faye, marriage needs a bit of excitement to keep things interesting. Louise's fiancé is a great man. Do you want to give him a try?" That night, the 4 of us sat in a discreet private room, each well aware of the situation. Cole Winder's voice was cold and distant. "Sorry, I'm not interested in other people's wives." Sean inexplicably felt a relief in his heart and smiled. "That's a pity." I couldn't help but steal a glance at Cole. The night before last, in bed, he had clung to me with unsatisfied desire. He didn't say that then. Ding! webnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. 3 years into our marriage, it wasn't the first time Sean Van had been rumored to have an affair. But those women before, he either played along for fun or had a one-night stand and quickly ended it. They never caused a scene in front of me. But this time, he was clearly infatuated. The woman was Louise, raised abroad with a bold demeanor. When I entered the house, Louise was lying on the sofa, wearing a new nightgown I hadn't yet worn. There was the faint sound of water from the bathroom. Sean was probably showering inside. Seeing me, Louise just gave a seductive smile. "Mrs. Van." I stood in the hallway with my suitcase. It took a while before I said dryly, "It seems you're wearing my nightgown." Louise gave me a glance, indifferent. She stood up and displayed her curvaceous and full figure. "But this nightgown suits me better." "Mrs. Van, you're a bit too thin to fill it out." The nightgown was a lace camisole with built-in padding. I vaguely remembered that Sean had bought it for me last month. Men's aesthetics are generally like this. But I've been slim since childhood from dancing. I'm not Sean's type at all. And Louise, even I found her vibrant and alluring. No wonder Sean was so taken this time. 3 months into their affair, they were still like in a passionate romance. He couldn't wait to bring her back to our marital home while I was away. "Then it's yours." I wouldn't touch it again anyway. "If she likes it, she can have it." "Mrs. Van, you're so generous." Louise raised an eyebrow and laughed. "Are you staying over?" I calmly looked at the woman in front of me. The long flight had left me very tired, and I just wanted to shower and sleep. If Louise was staying, I'd spend the night at a hotel. Before Louise could respond, the bathroom door opened. Sean came out with just a towel around his waist. Seeing me, he was only slightly surprised for a moment, then quickly returned to his usual composure. "Faye, why didn't you call before coming back?" He put down the towel and walked up to me. His voice lowered, becoming quite gentle. "Sorry, I'll send her away immediately." "Okay." I pushed him away. "I'm going to take a shower first, I'm very tired." Sean considerately smoothed my slightly messy hair. "Wait for me." I had just finished my shower and was doing my skincare routine. Sean came back after dropping off Louise. He stood next to me, not bothering to hide the kiss marks on his neck. My fingers paused as I applied my face cream. "Miss Louise doesn't seem to be single. Don't you think you should be more careful?" He looked at my serious expression and suddenly laughed. He leaned down, gripping my shoulder. "Faye, if a marriage is like stagnant water, something's bound to happen. We can't get a divorce, so a little excitement is a necessary spice for marriage." I looked at the man's face in the mirror. Growing up in families like ours, I always knew marriage wouldn't be free. But when we got married, I still couldn't help but have some hopes for my husband. At least we had known each other since childhood, like childhood sweethearts. At least after our engagement, he was considerate and gentle with me. But when he repeatedly got entangled with other women, I woke up completely. "What are you trying to say?" Louise's fiancé is said to be a great man. Sean lowered his head and gently kissed my cheek. "Faye, why don't you give him a try? I remember the male celebrity you like has a similar style. We can meet him like friends first. If you feel good about him and think it's worth a try, then take the next step. How about that?" I looked at myself in the mirror, somewhat dazed. My husband was persuading me to accept a stranger, to develop a twisted relationship. But he didn't know that my trip to G-City was not for business. It was to meet the man I once had a passionate affair with. We spent 3 days and nights together, indulging in debauchery. It was also the first time I tasted the pleasure of revenge. All right, let's meet him first. The friendly meeting was set for the next evening. While I was picking out clothes, Sean suddenly asked, "Faye, what happened to your neck?" I was raising my hand to put on a pearl necklace. Glancing at the kiss mark, I said calmly, "A mosquito got into the hotel and bit me. Do you want to cover it up?" "No need." Sean didn't ask further and started picking out a tie. In the end, I didn't choose my favorite light-colored dress but opted for a long red gown. He couldn't help but take another look. "Don't you dislike bright-colored dresses?" "I'm a bit tired of light colors." He helped me zip up and watched as I took out a lipstick to touch up my makeup. He suddenly said somewhat sourly, "I kind of don't want you to go now." "Then I won't go?" He frowned, thought for a moment, but still insisted, "We already made the appointment, it wouldn't be nice to cancel." "All right, I'll change my shoes." I bent down to change into high heels. Sean's gaze fell on my ankles and calves. "Faye, why do I feel like you've become more beautiful after your business trip?" I smiled at him. Maybe the water and soil in G-City are better for me. In the most private top-floor room of an exclusive private club. When Sean entered holding my arm, I immediately saw the man sitting opposite Louise. A black bespoke suit with peak lapels. A meticulously buttoned-up shirt. That face, noble and aloof. His whole demeanor exuded an air of unapproachability. Even the usually bold and outgoing Louise was sitting quietly. I lowered my eyes after just one glance. My fingers clutched my handbag nervously. I never expected the Mr. Winder who had entangled with me day and night in G-City would turn out to be the man I was meeting tonight, Louise's fiancé. "Mr. Winder, this is my wife Faye Tilney." When Sean introduced me, he seemed very nervous, his voice inexplicably shaky. "Mr. Winder, nice to meet you." When I looked at Cole Winder again, I had already regained my composure. "We are all adults. We all understand each other." Cole Winder also raised his eyes to look at me, as if meeting for the first time. "Miss Tilney, nice to meet you." My seat was next to Cole. Sean sat beside Louise. The atmosphere in the entire room was very strange. But there was a tacit understanding among us. Until halfway through the meal. Perhaps because she had drunk some wine, Louise gradually started talking more. "Cole, what do you think of Mrs. Van? I told you she's very pretty, just too skinny. But you seem to like girls who are fair and slim." I didn't respond, just lowered my eyes and quietly ate a small piece of dessert. Until a hot, large hand suddenly landed on my bare knee. My hand shook, and the beautiful dessert was smashed into a mess. Sean quickly asked with concern, "Faye, what's wrong?" I shook my head, "Nothing, just slipped." But the back of my neck was burning. My ears felt like they were on fire. I had noticed some inflammation in my earlobes that morning, and now they suddenly felt both painful and itchy. I couldn't help but raise my hand and gently rub them. Then I suddenly remembered. That night, in the midst of passion, that person had sucked on my earlobes. And at this moment, under the cover of the white lace tablecloth, that person's long, strong fingers had already landed on the inside of my thigh. I was so nervous that my whole body tensed up. Just then, Cole spoke. His voice was very calm, neither hurried nor slow. But there was no warmth in it. "Sorry, I'm not interested in other people's wives." I couldn't help but sneak a glance at him. That night in bed, when he was insatiably clinging to me. "He didn't say that." Louise smiled awkwardly. Sean was initially a bit stunned, but then, he unconsciously relaxed his brows. He smiled and said, "That's truly a pity." I sat quietly with my eyes downcast. But my hand slowly reached under the tablecloth, trying to push away the hand causing trouble. But Cole instead grasped my fingers in return. I wasn't prepared, and frowned with a light gasp. "Faye?" Sean looked at me, about to get up. I accidentally hit my hand. "It's nothing." I was so nervous that a thin layer of sweat covered my back. Cole gently squeezed my hand as if to reassure me. Then he let go. I breathed a slight sigh of relief, tidying up my messy skirt. When we were leaving, Sean originally wanted to take me back. But he suddenly received a phone call. With a troubled expression, he looked at me. "Faye, there's something at the company. Should I have the driver come get you?" Louise suddenly interjected. "How about Cole and I take Mrs. Van back? Wouldn't that be too much trouble?" Sean glanced cautiously at Cole. Cole neither agreed nor refused. "It's no trouble at all, Mr. Van, you go ahead and take care of your business," Louise quickly added. Sean gently reminded me a few more times, promising to come home early, then hurriedly left. But as soon as he left, Louise excused herself to the restroom and disappeared. I started to sense something was off. Instinctively, I looked at Cole beside me. He was leaning back in his chair, looking relaxed. But there was an inherent sense of superiority about him. I picked up my handbag, intending to stand up. But Cole reached out and grabbed my wrist. "The red dress is very pretty." My eyelashes fluttered, and I bit my lip, looking away. I just picked it randomly. But my cheeks were slightly hot. When choosing the dress, I had actually thought about that night. He had complimented how good I looked in red, saying it matched my skin tone. Cole suddenly laughed softly. The fingers holding my wrist tightened slightly. I was pulled into his arms, sitting solidly in his lap. But, as soon as I touched his hard thigh, I felt like I was burned, and immediately tried to get up. But Cole held my waist, avoiding me. I slowly closed my eyes and took a deep breath. To be honest, if I had known Cole had a fiancé, I wouldn't have gone to the hotel with him that night. When I asked him in G-City, he said he wasn't married and didn't have a girlfriend. So it wasn't really his fault. He didn't lie to me. He indeed wasn't married and didn't have a girlfriend, he just had a fiancé. "Mr. Winder, I'm very sorry. Why are you apologizing? First, I didn't expect you to have a fiancé. It was my fault for not thinking things through. Second, I knew Louise's fiancé's last name was Winder, but I didn't think much of it and still came here, causing you trouble." I lowered my eyes and pried his fingers off my waist. I stood up and sincerely apologized. "What trouble did you cause me?" Cole leaned back in his chair, his tone still unhurried. But I felt my heart tighten with each beat. The light cast shadows over his head, enveloping his deep-set eyes. His nose was high and prominent, making his features exceptionally defined and handsome. He was slightly taller than Sean. He looked very stylish in a suit, with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and a lean figure. But without his clothes, his shoulders, back, waist, and abdomen were even more muscular than Sean's. A man like this possessed great physical strength. He also had the ambition and aura built from wealth and power. I knew that having provoked him, it would be unlikely to escape unscathed. But at this moment, I had no other choice but to humble myself as much as possible, hoping he would let it go without making a fuss. "You just said you have no interest in other people's wives." I gathered my courage to meet his gaze. "That's why I was worried about causing you trouble. Don't you think it's a bit late to worry now?" I was speechless. Yes, he never asked me. But at that time, I didn't honestly tell him I was already married. "I'm sorry." I could only apologize again. Feeling so embarrassed that I didn't dare to look at him, my voice trembled. "You should have noticed the relationship between Louise and me." I nodded slightly. Indeed, there seemed to be a very open relationship between them. He didn't seem to mind his fiancée being involved with other men. "So, you don't need to worry about Louise causing me any trouble." "But Faye, tell me," Cole said this as he slowly stood up. He took a step towards me, his tall figure completely overshadowing me. I instinctively stepped back, but he lightly gripped my wrist. "I mind very much that you are Sean Van's wife." I widened my eyes in surprise. "Mr. Winder." When Cole wasn't smiling, his eyes were very cold. His long fingers moved up from my wrist, finally pinching my chin. I trembled slightly. A man who could make someone as proud as Sean feel fear, I didn't dare to imagine how terrifying his background could be. I had deceived him, embarrassed him. How would he retaliate against me? "I'm sorry." "Besides I'm sorry, what else can you say?" I turned my face away, feeling the pain in my chin. I couldn't help but want to cry. But then Cole suddenly lowered his head and kissed me. I instinctively tried to push him away. Cole, however, held my wrist and pinned it behind my back. Faye. His kiss wasn't deep, even somewhat gentle. Open your mouth. Cole lightly bit my lip. Give me some response. Then we still have room to talk, Faye. I didn't know to what extent I needed to satisfy him. I didn't know how long I had to kiss him or how long it lasted. I just vaguely remembered. It seemed that in the end, my legs were so weak I could hardly stand. Cole and I were on the verge of losing control. But he pushed me away. I fell onto the chair, my dress in disarray. Cole calmly straightened his clothes. Finally, he said to me, "Let's go, I'll take you home." The car door opened, and Louise was already sitting in the front passenger seat. I didn't look at her, but out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that when I got in the car, Louise glanced at me several times. When we arrived at the villa gate, I softly thanked him and got out of the car. The car didn't stay long and quickly drove away. Sean hadn't returned yet. I tiredly took a shower, and while blow-drying my hair, he called me. "Sorry, Faye, there's a serious issue at the company that I haven't finished dealing with. I might not come back tonight." After hanging up, I lay on the bed. There were no chaotic thoughts in my mind, nor was I interested in verifying the truth of Sean's words. But I thought it was just another grand excuse to cover up his actions. I just didn't expect that this time, Sean wasn't lying to me. For a whole week, Sean hadn't returned home. There was also no news from Cole. And I didn't know. At this moment, Sean was standing dejectedly in Cole's office. On the desk in front of him, there was a stack of photos. The photos showed every time he had secretly met with Louise. Mr. Winder. Sean felt cold sweat soaking his entire body. He regretted it immensely. Regretted being seduced by Louise. Regretted getting involved with a woman he should never have provoked. And most of all, regretted being so complacent on his own turf that he got caught in so many photos. Even though Louise and Cole had their own affairs and didn't interfere with each other. But playing around in private was one thing, causing a scandal was another. Moreover, these photos were bought by Cole at a high price. For the first time in his life, Sean felt the fear of being on the brink of death. "Mr. Van, since things have come to this, let's talk about how to resolve it." Cole was sitting, but his presence still completely overwhelmed Sean. "You and I are both businessmen, and we should be very clear that businessmen never make losing deals." "I understand, Mr. Winder, it was my oversight." Sean was drenched in sweat. At this point, he understood everything. The series of challenges his company faced were all Cole Winder's means of retaliation. But he couldn't even complain. Because all of this was his own doing. "Mr. Van, there's no need to say that to me. I just need a reasonable solution now, and compensation." Sean grasped at what seemed to be his lifeline. "Mr. Winder, however you want to resolve this, as long as I can do it." Cole looked up at him, his gaze very calm. "How is Miss Tilney doing recently?" Sean was stunned for a moment. Then, it was as if a sudden electric current ran through his heart. But it also made him instantly clear-headed. Cole Winder wouldn't mention Faye for no reason. So, he was interested in Faye? But clearly, last time, according to what Louise said, he took Faye to the meeting. Cole's attitude was very clear, he didn't like married women. "I've been busy with company matters these days and haven't been home, so I haven't seen her." Sean carefully chose his words, watching Cole's expression. His face showed no emotion, just a slight nod. "Give my regards to Miss Tilney for me." "Okay, sure, Mr. Winder." Sean watched as Cole stood up. It seemed like he wanted to end the conversation. But today's matter wasn't resolved. If Cole didn't relent, Sean couldn't imagine how long his company could hold out. His face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth. "Mr. Winder, are you free tonight?" Cole didn't respond, just glanced at him. "If you're free, I'd like to invite you to dinner." "No time." "No time, huh?" "I was thinking of inviting Faye along." Cole seemed to smile slightly. "If Miss Tilney is coming, then I have time. It's an honor that you would join us." I'll make the reservation right now. Sean felt the heavy weight on his heart suddenly lift. But at the same time, an indescribable emotion surged within him. Even if he were a fool, he could see it. Cole was interested in his wife. And he had to pretend to know nothing, personally sending his wife to him. To protect himself and his company. Sean had no choice, he didn't even struggle for long. By the way, Mr. Van. As Cole was leaving the office, he suddenly stopped and looked back at Sean. As I said before, I'm not interested in other men's wives. It took Sean a full half-minute to come to his senses. He finally understood how foolish he had been. It turned out that at their last meeting, when Cole said that, it didn't mean he wasn't interested in Faye. He was subtly yet clearly reminding him that Cole deeply cared about the fact that Faye was Sean's wife. When Sean returned, I had just woken up from a nap. He walked into the bedroom and stood by the bed, watching me for a while. He didn't say anything. Is the issue with the company still unresolved? I frowned and asked. Faye. Sean suddenly held my hand. I've wronged you these years we've been married. I was a bit surprised, but before I could say anything, he softly said, let's get a divorce. Don't worry, the divorce won't affect the Tilney family, nor will it impact any of your interests. Sean's face was pale, but his eyes were bloodshot. It seemed he didn't need my answer, just talking to himself. Actually, I had thought about divorce before. But if I divorced, I would be forced into another arranged marriage by my family. It would just be the same tragedy repeated. Weighing the pros and cons, at least Sean and I had known each other for many years, and he still had some conscience. The Tilney family and the Van family now had deep business ties. But now Sean brought it up himself. I suddenly felt that divorce might not be a bad thing. Especially since Sean said it wouldn't affect the Tilney family. I had long been disillusioned with marriage, maybe in the future, I would remain single. It only took 2 hours to finalize the divorce between Sean and me. The terms of the divorce agreement were favorable to both me and the Tilney family. I didn't think too long before signing it. Let's have a meal together. Sean glanced at me while driving. Faye, I've booked a table at your favorite restaurant. I agreed without much thought. Just simply thought it would be our last meal together. But I never expected Cole would come. I looked at Sean, my voice a bit stiff. So, you invited Mr. Winder? He looked away. Faye, it's just a meal together. Just a meal together? I asked back. Sean avoided answering, but I already knew the answer. I didn't say anything. Just lowered my head, looking at the lingering mark on my ring finger where my wedding ring used to be. Even though my love for Sean had long faded. Even if I didn't love him or care about him anymore. But knowing that my former husband was plotting to push me to another man, I still felt painful and shameful. My tears started to fall uncontrollably, in large drops. But Sean stood silently beside me for a few seconds, then turned and left. He even, very considerately, closed the room door. Cole walked up to me. He didn't comfort me, nor did he say any cold or mocking words. He just patiently wiped my tears with a tissue. I cried for as long as he wiped. Until I was exhausted, my eyes swollen. He then pulled me up, go wash your face, and then eat something. I went to the bathroom. Cole walked to the end of the hallway to smoke. I didn't know when Sean followed, Mr. Winder, Faye and I are already divorced. Cole's voice was very cold, then from now on, remember your own identity. Sean suddenly smiled, Mr. Winder, someone like you wouldn't have just one woman. Cole turned around, looking at him coldly. Sean lowered his eyes to the ground, when you return to G-City and things are settled, I will remarry Faye. Sean Van. He instinctively looked up. This was the first time Cole called him by his full name. You won't have that chance. Sean's eyes widened suddenly, Mr. Winder, what do you mean by that? He slowly extinguished the burning cigarette. Do you think I'm just momentarily infatuated? Cole looked down at the man in front of him. He was calm and confident, having achieved his goal step by step. He had lost count of the sleepless nights he had endured. But Cole knew clearly, from now on, every night, Faye would be by his side. Sean's eyes widened in panic, retreating a few steps. Pointing at Cole, his voice trembling, you set me up. You trapped me. You even pushed your own fiancé as a pawn. Cole looked at him as if he were a fool. Sean Van, you're even dumber than I thought. A woman like Louise could never be his fiancé. And how could a man use his own fiancé as a pawn to tempt a rival? Cole Winder, aren't you afraid I'll tell Faye? Go ahead. Cole's voice was indifferent, walking forward leisurely. If you want everyone to see your prowess in bed, then go tell Faye everything. Cole Winder, you're shameless, shameless. Sean's eyes were red with anger, but his voice clearly lowered. Cole no longer cared about any of this. Shameless? Shameless or despicable, it didn't matter. It was better than the torment of sleepless nights thinking of that name, that woman. Coming out of the bathroom, I had just hung up from a call with my mom. Then Sean's mother called. It seems that our divorce is already known to both of our families. I hesitated for a moment and, for the first time, I refused to answer Mrs. Van's call. The Tilney family was once a scholarly family, but it has declined in recent years. The Van family, on the other hand, are new, rich, wealthy, and powerful. When we got engaged, our families were still on par with each other, and Mrs. Van treated me quite well. But by the time we got married, the Van family's status had risen significantly, and her attitude towards me became condescending. Moreover, in the 3 years after our marriage, I never had a child. In the end, Mrs. Van blamed it all on me. But less than 5 minutes after I refused to take her call, my mom called again. Faye, weren't you being a bit rude? Also, divorce is not a trivial matter. We, the elders, haven't agreed to it, so it doesn't count. I felt completely exhausted, both mentally and physically. You go and talk to Sean Van, and stop calling me. As soon as I hung up, my phone started vibrating again, so I simply turned it off. Just as I was feeling upset, Cole suddenly spoke. Do you want to go to G-City with me for a while, just to relax? I couldn't help but scrutinize the man in front of me. He comes from a privileged background, with unfathomable connections. Just because of a simple sentence, I'm not interested in other people's wives. I went from being Mrs. Van to being single. A man like him, whatever he wants, he can get effortlessly. Besides, that night, I chose him myself. The hotel, I went there willingly. Even the last time I went to G-City, no one forced me. Those 3 days and nights were very happy for me. Before, I was Mrs. Van, now I'm single. Even the last psychological shackle has been removed. However, at that time, I thought he was single. But now, he has a fiancé. Mr. Winder, I appreciate your kindness. But since I know you have a fiancé, Faye. Cole suddenly took my hand, his thumb brushing over the faint mark on my ring finger. It was only then that I noticed. Cole's left hand did not have an engagement ring. From the first time I was with him, it was like this, but this doesn't necessarily prove anything. Many married men don't wear their wedding rings and pretend to be single. Instinctively, I tried to pull my hand back. But Cole looked at me and spoke very seriously. Louise and I have no relationship. She is an artist signed overseas with one of my entertainment companies. I give her resources, and she pretends to be my fiancé to help me avoid some unnecessary troubles. You know, too many people want to push women towards me. As he said this, he lightly held my hand. Faye, do you have any other questions? My mind went blank for a while. But in a flash, I caught on to one key point. Was your involvement in Louise and Sean's affair intentional? Their relationship was more like a superior and subordinate rather than collaborators. Louise was clearly afraid of him and followed his every command. Even if she was just a shield, Louise wouldn't dare to be ambiguous with another man. Cole's expression didn't change at all. He looked at me openly. Louise met Sean while filming a promotional video for his company. That night, Sean asked her out for dinner. Louise refused him 3 times, but Sean kept pestering her. Cole chuckled. Faye, I didn't know you at the time, so why would I instruct Louise to seduce Sean Van? He wasn't wrong. Cole was far away in G-City at the time and he didn't seem like such a bored person. Moreover, a woman like Louise was practically tailor-made for Sean. Every inch of her body matched his preferences. I understand. Actually, investigating these issues now seems meaningless. Sean didn't cheat because he met Louise. Even without Louise, there would be other women. I suddenly felt like I had let go of everything. But I didn't want to think about the past at all. How long are we going for? I asked Cole. How long do you want to go for? I thought about it. 2 weeks? Or 1 week? How long does Sean's interest in women last? It might serve as a reference. But sometimes it's a day, sometimes a week. Louise lasted 3 months. Maybe in the future, there will be even longer ones. I was a bit uncertain. Cole spoke slowly. It's just a month until Christmas. Why not stay in G-City for the holiday? During Christmas, there will be a cruise party over there, and they say there will be fireworks all night. After he finished, he added, I think the Van family will be in chaos for a while. Sean's mother is quite difficult to deal with. And your mother, staying here will only upset you. Why not go out for a while? I was somewhat moved by his words. Moreover, those 3 days in G-City before, I got along very well with him. If you have fun, stay a bit longer. If you want to come back, I'll send you back. Faye, when you're with me, you don't need to have any worries. I seriously thought for a while, then nodded, okay. He seemed to be in a good mood. Let's go home first, you need a good rest today. He naturally held my hand and walked outside. We got into the car and returned to his place in the capital. The first time between a man and a woman is often difficult. But once the first time is over, everything afterwards seems to become natural. When I was changing my shoes, Cole gently wrapped his arm around my waist. When I straightened up, he had already pressed me against the door, lowering his head to kiss me. I had some red wine with dinner. The whole person was in a slightly tipsy state. He carried me to the bathroom, and I hung limply on him, lying on his shoulder. You need to gain a little weight. Cole's hand stroked my back, his voice held a smile, yet there was an indistinguishable tenderness. I could even feel his fingertips caressing every inch of my spine. Since I was young, dancer teachers have been very strict about weight. I often went hungry, and I'm used to eating very little. Dieting is bad for your health. Remember last time in G-City, you almost fainted from low blood sugar? He placed me on the sink, and small kisses fell on my neck. The hem of my skirt rolled up, resting on his pant seam. I was kissed by him to the point of being breathless, but eating more makes my stomach uncomfortable. No rush, we'll adjust it slowly. His hand touched the zipper on my back. The silky dress slid off me like water, piling up at my waist. His kisses trailed down my body. Faye, spread your legs. He used his knee to separate my calves, then held my ankles, wrapping them around his waist. Cole. I instinctively grabbed his strong arm. The light above us was softly shining down. Maybe it was because the light was too gentle, even his eyebrows and eyes seemed soft. I was somewhat mesmerized, sinking into it. After a long time, the sink was a mess. Cole lightly kissed my sweaty forehead. Let's take a bath. I don't want to continue. Okay. He agreed in words, but in reality, he was coaxing me. In the end, the bathroom became a mess too. The floor was covered with water. Cole, don't let the maids clean here tomorrow. He carried me back to the bedroom, his voice carrying a hint of laughter. Okay, I'll clean it. I'm really tired. I don't want to continue. Okay. I lay on his chest, yawned and closed my eyes. Cole. If you ever want to end this, remember to tell me in advance. I didn't wait for his reply. I sleepily opened my eyes to look at him, but just one look, and I couldn't stay awake any longer. Cole placed me on the bed, covered me with a blanket. I slept deeply, not knowing that after he bowed his head and kissed my brow tenderly, he got up to go to the balcony to make a call. Start preparing for what I instructed you before. Cole held his phone, gazing at the distant night sky. It's time for the Winder family to have a happy event. The day before I was to leave for G-City, I invited my best friend Gladys for dinner. As we were about to finish, Cole called me. Faye, I'll come pick you up later. Gladys and I still want to chat for a while. And you don't need to pick me up, we can take a taxi back. Call me when you're done, I'll come pick you up. All right. After hanging up, Gladys propped her chin on her hand, looking at me with interest. Faye, you seem a bit different. Really? When Sean used to pick you up or when you got his calls, your expression wasn't like it was just now. What kind of expression? Gladys smiled mischievously. How should I say it? You looked very gentle and feminine. I couldn't help but glare at her. I've always been gentle. It's different. Gladys put away her smile and looked at me seriously. Faye, I hope you can be happy. In those years you were married, I never saw happiness on your face. I was a bit stunned. Happy? Actually, when we first got married, during the honeymoon period, I should have been happy. But it quickly disappeared because of Sean's scandals and infidelity. Although I don't know much about that Mr. Winder, but I know you well, Faye, you can't hide your state from me. Gladys squeezed my hand tightly. You're my best friend, Faye. I hope this time you've met the right person in your life. But, is it really like that? I thought about the night I first met Cole. Among so many people, why did I notice him? And why, someone who always carefully followed the rules like me, would suddenly have a rebellious and indulgent thought? And Cole, why would he agree to the invitation of a drunken, disheveled woman? From that night to the 3 days and nights later in G City, I always thought this was just a fleeting affair between adults. I never expected it to develop to this point. I don't know what will happen this time going to G City with him or how it will end. But life is full of one unknown after another. Maybe I don't need to think so much. Enjoying happiness with the person you like. That's enough. When Cole drove over, Gladys and I looked outside through the window. The night in the capital was brightly lit. The traffic flowed like a tide, people coming and going. Cole got out of the car and walked towards the restaurant without taking his eyes off me. Gladys winked at me. Not bad, an abstinent handsome guy. My face suddenly turned red. Cole does look cold and unapproachable. But what he's like in private, outsiders don't know. Why are you blushing? Gladys playfully pushed me. You sneaky girl, enjoying such good man behind my back. No wonder your skin looks so amazing today. I thought you secretly did some new beauty project without telling me. Humph. Turns out it's your man nourishing you. Her words made me so restless that I grabbed my bag and stood up. You should quickly get into a relationship, then I'll have a bunch of things to say to you too. The day I arrived in G City, I received a call from an unknown number. It turned out to be Sean's mother. As soon as I picked up, Mrs. Van began to berate me harshly. Faye Tilney, even though you and Sean are divorced, just days after the divorce you went to G City with another man. Where does that leave the Van family's reputation? Is this how your parents raised you? You've been married into the Van family for 3 years, and we've always taken good care of you. Even though you couldn't have children, I didn't make Sean divorce you. But look at you, the moment the company had trouble, you just left. Mrs. Van was clearly very angry, her words becoming sharper and sharper. I tell you, I cannot tolerate this. How many benefits have the Tilney family received from the Van family over these years? You can't just be so ungrateful. I couldn't help but interrupt her. Mrs. Van, if you have any issues with the business cooperation between our families, please talk to my father or brother. After all, I have never been involved in business matters from the beginning. If you have any objections to the divorce, please ask your son for the reasons. Mrs. Van was choked by my words. Faye Tilney, what do you mean by that? Are you saying you have no fault at all? Mrs. Van, please do not contact me again. Sean and I are divorced, and I have nothing to do with you anymore. Please do not bother me. Faye. I didn't want to say more and directly hung up the phone, but my mood was ruined by her. I sat on the sofa, silent. Cole pulled me up. Go change into a beautiful dress, I'll take you to watch the fireworks tonight. Cole. I'm so tired. I didn't want to move or talk. Lying on his chest, my voice was weak. He stroked my hair. These troubles will be gone in the future. Really? Of course. Cole kissed me on the forehead. Don't be sad, trust me. Women are emotional creatures. An hour ago, I was still feeling down. At this moment, I was wearing a new dress, standing under the night sky filled with fireworks. My mood suddenly brightened. There was an unexpected classical dance performance at the cruise party. I was watching intently. Several dancing girls suddenly ran over and surrounded me on the stage. Since getting married, I had hardly participated in any performances, except in the dance studio. Dancing on stage felt like something from a century ago. But I quickly caught up with the rhythm. As my skirt swirled, I realized Cole had chosen this dress with a plan in mind. After the dance ended, the music turned into a beautiful, melodious violin solo. Fireworks blossomed brilliantly in the night sky. Cole, dressed in formal attire, walked towards me with a bouquet of roses. I was stunned. He looked like he was about to propose. But our relationship began on an impulse. Cole was already on one knee. Laughter and applause erupted around us. I was pushed in front of him by the crowd. My mind was in chaos. I hadn't even reacted. The diamond ring was already on my ring finger. "Faye, can you help me put one on too?" He looked at me, extending his left hand. At this moment, my heart suddenly calmed down. Cole Winder. I held the ring, smiled at him, but tears flowed uncontrollably. "I am willing to trust you this once, but only this once." The ring slowly slipped onto his finger. He stood up and hugged me tightly. "Faye, I will spend my life proving it to you." The Van family hasn't bothered me again. I heard that Sean's company still hasn't improved, and he's been incredibly busy. Mrs. Van is also busy, selecting a new daughter-in-law she approves of, so they can quickly marry her into the family and continue the Van lineage. The Tilney family, on the other hand, calls frequently. Even my usually strict father has become much more gentle towards me. But I know very well I won't let the Tilney family depend on Cole, nor will I bring unnecessary trouble to Cole. So I keep a polite but distant attitude towards the Tilney family. I heard that my father is very unhappy because of this. He even called me unfilial when he was drunk. But what is filial piety? Is sacrificing one's own happiness for the benefit of the family considered filial piety? Then I'd rather be an unfilial daughter. Cole and I got engaged in the blossoming month of March. When I got engaged, Gladys naturally came to G-City. But the once lively and cheerful girl now had a hint of sadness in her eyes. As soon as my engagement ceremony ended, she hurriedly flew back to the capital for a man. I was very worried about her, but Cole advised me, "Let her be, you can't force things like love." Is that so? Yes, love can't be forced. Just like how I only have eyes for you and only love you. Cole, did you eat honey today? I couldn't help but laugh, feeling sweet inside. Do you want to taste it? Cole leaned in to kiss me, and after dodging a few times, I finally let him have his way. Cole's perspective. When Faye and I got married, Sean Van met with misfortune. His business faced repeated setbacks, leaving him heavily in debt. In a bad mood, he went to City to relax. First, he lost money gambling, then he was scammed. He was found in a disheveled state, trapped in a hotel room. In the end, the Van family scraped together $1 million to get him out. But he was completely ruined from then on. Mrs. Van was so angry she almost died. I didn't tell Faye about any of this. She was about to become my bride, and our wedding was a joyous occasion. It shouldn't be ruined by these irrelevant people and events. Actually, Sean's downfall wasn't surprising. A man like him, fickle and lecherous, was bound to fall because of a woman sooner or later. I just felt a bit regretful. Why did I meet Faye so late? If we had met earlier, before she got married, she wouldn't have had to endure those 3 years of suffering. But I'm also grateful, that night, I didn't reject the slightly disheveled her. That night, I inexplicably brought her back to the hotel. After she showered, she stood before me like a fresh lily. Seeing her still gentle and beautiful face, I suddenly realized everything was destined. Just like the first time I saw her as a teenager, I was instantly captivated. Even after many years, I would still fall in love with her again. But Faye no longer remembered me, she had even become someone else's wife. But that didn't matter, marriages can end in divorce. Especially with such a despicable husband. When I untied her bathrobe and kissed her, she cried. I knew how much disappointment and grievance she had accumulated to make such a decision. I was very grateful she chose me. And I didn't reject her. At first, she was awkward and stiff, crying all the time. I comforted her for a long time until she adapted and succumbed. In the end, she became soft as water under me. I coaxed her to call my name over and over, not letting her stop. She felt comfortable, but her gaze showed grievance. I held her, and she was very docile in my arms, maybe too tired to push me away. Half asleep, she still reminded me, "Tomorrow, we will be strangers." But how could she know? At this point, how could I let go? It was from that night I made that decision. Step by step, to bring her to my side. For the rest of my life, I would love only her with all my heart. But I would keep this secret until my last breath. Faye had changed into her wedding dress. I handed my phone to my assistant and turned to walk towards her. She looked at me with a shy and gentle smile. The white, luxurious, and exquisite wedding dress made her look like a lily. Just like when she was a teenager, wearing a white dress, riding a bike, playfully controlling the handlebars with one hand, holding an ice cream cone in the other. The ice cream was melting, staining her hand. She panicked a bit, the handlebars wobbled, and she lost control of the bike. She crashed straight into the front of my car. She fell, her calf was scraped, bleeding a lot, and she cried in pain. When I got out of the car to help her, her hands, covered in melted ice cream, smeared my shirt. She sobbed but remembered to apologize to me. I took her to a nearby clinic. While the doctor disinfected her wound, she cried loudly. I covered her eyes so she wouldn't see the wound. And then I awkwardly trying to comfort her. Later, her classmates came to find her, saying the dance teacher was getting impatient. She broke free from my hand, thanked me hastily, and left in a hurry. At that time, I thought we would meet again soon. But unexpectedly, the next day, my mother and I were taken to G-City by my biological father. My half-brother and his family had died in a car accident, leaving no children. I became my father's only son. My low-born mother finally entered the Winder family as she had always wished. And I, originally an illegitimate child, suddenly became the sole heir. From that moment, my fate changed drastically. My life was arranged single-handedly by my domineering father. But when it came to marriage, I would never compromise. My father grew old, and the old lion had to bow to the younger generation. In the end, he had no choice but to yield. Faye. I looked at my wife, reaching out my hand to her. She shyly placed her hand lightly in my palm. I held her fingers tightly, and this time, I would never let go.